Hey, what is going on, you guys? Today, I'm going to be taking you step by step on how to make a complete portfolio tracker in Google Sheets that is interactive and will also track our dividends. And if we jump over to this page here, we can see a list of all of our portfolio's holdings, and we're tracking things like the price, our cost, market value. You can see we have our days change, our dollar gain, and our growth. We have a 1-year trend line here, our market cap. And then here we're tracking a lot of metrics that are dividend metrics. And then you can see here at the end, we have our industry being tracked. And remember, this is a completely interactive tracker. So what that means is, let's delete this right here. And you can see all these metrics went away. And let's say that I bought AT&T and I bought 30 shares at a price of $28 per share. When I hit enter, you can see all of these metrics automatically filled in. So we can see our expected income from AT&T, what industry they're in, along with all these other metrics that I just mentioned. And if we jump over to our portfolio value page, you can see we're tracking things like obviously our portfolio value over time, our value by individual holdings, and you can see we just put AT&T and here they are listed right here. We can see our dollar and percent gain, our value by industry. If we jump over to our Dividend Outlook page, you can see we're tracking a lot of great metrics for our dividends. You can see our historical monthly dividend income. We can see our expected dividend income by industry, our yield on cost, and our expected yearly dividend income here. And here we have our expected yearly dividend income as a whole, our dividend income year to date, our average monthly dividends, our highest month of dividend income, and our portfolio dividend yield. And this is all based off of what we have in our portfolio holdings. So when this spreadsheet is done, all we'll ever need to do is insert our holdings into this white box right here, and everything else will fill in automatically for us. If you want to have the ability to download this spreadsheet or any of my other portfolio trackers in Google Sheets, then you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. So that being said, let's jump into the tutorial. Okay, so let's get started. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the top and title this spreadsheet. And I'm just going to go ahead and title it Portfolio/Dividend Tracker. And we need to start building out our portfolio holdings sheet. So let's go ahead and list our symbol, our shares, and our purchase price. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste in some random companies, a random number of shares, and a random purchase price, just so we have some sample data. And now what we want to do is we want to clean this up, make it look a little bit nicer. So to do that, we'll highlight it and we will give this outer borders. And then we will come to this top row and give that outer borders as well. So now let's come over here to the right and I want to list out my price, I want to list out my cost, and I want to list out my market value. And to get our price, what we are going to do is we are going to use the Google Finance function. So if I type out Google Finance and select Apple, close that parentheses and hit enter, you can see Google Finance allows us to automatically pull the stock price of the company to its left. And so we are now, for our cost, we're just going to do our shares times our purchase price and hit enter. And for our market value, we are now going to take our shares and multiply that by the current price of the company. And I'll hit enter and I will autofill that. So now we have our price, our cost, and our market value. And the next thing that I am wanting to see is I want to know how the stock is performing on the day. So I want the days change. And over here, I want to know my dollar gain from this investment. And then I also want to know my growth. So for our days change, we are going to once again use the Google Finance formula and slow down the video if you need to or rewind. And I'm going to select Apple and then I'm just going to type out change. And then I'm going to divide this by 100 to make it a percentage. And when I drag that down, we can now see how each individual stock has been performing on the day. I'll click the percentage button and now we can see it as a percent. Now I want to know my individual dollar gains on each of these investments. And you can see the formula I'm using for that here. And now I want to know the growth from each of these companies. And for that, I'm just going to take our price and I'm going to subtract it from the purchase price and then we're going to divide that by the purchase price again, and now we can see our percent gain on each of these individual stocks. Let's go ahead and make this a percentage as well. And now we're ready to make our 1-year trend line, and this is a really cool formula. This is a really cool tool that Google Sheets provide. We are going to combine the sparkline formula, and we are also going to use the Google Finance formula to make a 1-year trend line based off its price. So I'm going to type out sparkline and then Google Finance. We'll select Apple, and then we want the trend line to be price, so we will type out price right here. And now we need to select the dates, and I want a 1-year trend line. So we're going to do today, open parentheses, minus 364, and then we are going to select today once again, and we will finish this formula by closing it off. And when I hit enter, you can see I now have the 1-year trend line. And for some of these more complicated formulas, I'll be sure to post these in the description or in the comments below, so you can copy and paste these formulas that are more advanced if you'd like. And now I'm going to make a market cap area. And this is a relatively easy formula in Google Sheets. We're going to use the Google Finance formula once again, and we will select Apple over here and just type out market cap and close the parentheses and hit enter. And now we can see the market cap for each of these companies when I drag this down. Let's go ahead and spread this column out a little bit so we can see better. And now we're ready to start building out our dividend metrics, and in order to do this, we are going to have to use some web scraping. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to finviz.com, and I'm going to type in Apple, and we are going to pull up some information on Apple. And now that I have Apple pulled up, if I scroll down here, we can see on FinViz, we have the dividend listed right here that is being paid by Apple. We want to web scrape this data right here that is highlighted. So let's jump back over to our spreadsheet, and I'm going to put in a formula that is going to automatically pull that data from FinViz and put it into our spreadsheet. And you can see it's a complicated formula. I'll be sure to post this in the description. But Google Finance does not provide a way to pull dividend data, so this is the only way to do it. So when I hit enter on this, and we can see that it worked. It is saying that Apple pays a dividend of 88 cents. Let's check and make sure that's correct. And we can see that it is correct. So let's go ahead and drag this formula down. And now we have the amount that is paid in dividends by each of these companies. And we can see it looks like everything is correct. So let's go ahead and move on. And I also want to track my current dividend yield of the company. And let's go ahead and pull this out so it can fit into one column. And I also want to know my dividend yield on cost. And then, of course, I also want to know what my dividend income from each of these companies is going to be. So let's go ahead and start filling these out. For our current dividend yield, we are going to take our amount paid in dividends that we just created, and we're going to divide that by the current price and hit enter. And we can go ahead and autofill this, and let's make this a percentage. So now we have our current dividend yield. And for our dividend yield on costs, we're going to do almost the same thing, but instead we're going to take our dividend and divide it by the price that we purchased in at. So we'll select our purchase price here, and it's kind of fun to compare the two and see if we got in at a good price and see if our dividend yield on cost is better. And for our dividend income, all we have to do is the amount paid in dividends and multiply it by the number of shares of the companies that we own. And so when I hit enter here, we can see how much dividend income we are going to make from each of these companies based on how many shares we own. So let's go ahead and jump over. Our last column is our industry column. We are going to have to web scrape again for this one, just like we did for our dividends. So I'm going to jump over to Fidelity Investments, and we're going to web scrape some data from Fidelity's research page. So let's go here and we will type in Apple. And we will click go. And now we have some data pulled up on Apple. So let me go ahead and scroll down here. And somewhere on here, we should see the sector and industry that it's listed in. And okay, here it is right here. So we can see that Apple is in the information technology sector, and that's the data we want to web scrape and put into our sheet. So I'm going to put in another advanced and more complicated formula. I'll put it in the description, but we can see here what this is doing is it is going to web scrape that information on Apple into our sheet. And I'll probably make another video going over on how to web scrape sometime soon if that's something you're interested in. So when I hit enter here, you can see it says Apple is in the information technology industry. Let's jump over and we can see that is correct. So our formula is working properly. So let's go ahead and pull this out a little bit. And let's go ahead and drag this down and make sure it's working for all of our other stocks. And it looks like it is. So we can now see the industry of each of our holdings. So now we have all the data that we need on our portfolio holdings page. I'm going to zoom out here and let's go ahead and start to clean this up just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of my data here. And let's go ahead and come up here and give this an outer border. And I'll select this row right here, give this row outer borders. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select my days change, dollar gain and growth, and I want to add some conditional formatting. And I'm going to set some rules and say that anything that is greater than 0, I want to show up as green. And then I'm going to add another rule, and I want to say anything that is less than 0, I want to show up red. And so this is a great way to quickly see which of our stocks are performing well. And so when we look at our days change, we can see this is mainly a red day for the market, but we can see overall for our dollar gain and growth, we're doing pretty decent. So let's go ahead and select this whole page. We'll center our text. That'll start to clean things up again as well. And looks like, let's go ahead and fix this row here. And I'll fix my spelling. And let's just delete this right here. And we will fix this. And okay, so we're making really good progress on this portfolio holdings tab. So I'm just going to kind of clean this up a little bit more. Let's go ahead and select this top row. And I'm going to add some color to this. And I'm going to feel free to add whatever color you want, but I tend to think that the lighter colors look kind of better. I like to make the stock data yellow typically, and then I'm going to change the color for my dividend data. And let's try a light blue for this one. And then we will jump over to my industry column, and I will probably try purple for this one. So now we can see we have our portfolio holdings tab looking really good. Everything is color coded and we have all the data we need. So I'm just going to come up here to the top and let's just go ahead and title this. We'll merge these cells, give it an outer border, and I'm just going to title this portfolio holdings. So let's center this text and make it show up in the middle as well. And I'm going to increase the font size. And we'll give it a little bit of color as well. So we have our portfolio holdings tab now. We can see when I zoom out. Go ahead and rewind if you need to, because we are going to go ahead and move on. So I'm going to come up down here and title this tab Portfolio Holdings. And let's go ahead and make a new tab. So this next tab that we are going to make is going to be our Portfolio Value tab, or Portfolio Outlook, kind of whatever you want to see. But this is where we're going to put some metrics to track our portfolio as a whole. And I'm going to add a Dividend Outlook tab, and then I'm going to add a Recording tab here. And we're going to use this Recording tab to track our portfolio value over time. And we're going to also track our dividend income over time. So I'm just going to create a place where we can track those two things. And to do that, I need to know my date, symbol, and the amount paid in dividends. And we'll get back to that part later. But I'm just going to go ahead and make that area. So I'm going to give that an outer border. And now I'm going to jump over here. And I'm going to make my portfolio value recording tab. And to do that, all I need to know is the date and my portfolio value. So we'll add those two things, we'll give it outer borders, and then we will make an area to track those things as well. And I'm just going to make it sized up with our dividend tracker. So let's scroll back up. And I just went ahead and jumped forward, and all I did was copy and paste in my portfolio value over time and my dividend income over time. So that's going to be whatever your individual portfolio has done. You just list your portfolio value month by month. So at the beginning of each month, I list my portfolio value, and whenever I get paid in dividends, I list all my dividend tracker right there, and you can see I have the month, the amount paid in dividends, as well as the company. So now we're going to go ahead and make a chart based on our portfolio value and our date. So all I did was highlight those rows and click Insert Chart. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this chart and put it on our portfolio outlook. So I'm going to copy it. Let's come to our portfolio outlook and paste this chart here. And if we go to our chart series, we can click on this right here. And I want to be able to see what my value of the portfolio was over each month. So let's click on data labels. And now we can see how much our portfolio has been valued at month over month. So let's go ahead and spread this out. And let's fix the title right here as well. And I'm just going to title this portfolio value. I'll bold that so it stands out a little bit more. And let's fix this axis right here. And we'll change the minimum value. And let's make it 7,000. So now we can kind of see the difference in our portfolio growth over time better. So now I'm just going to make a new spot right here, and I'm just going to title this sheet, and feel free to title it whatever you want, but I'm going to go ahead and title it Portfolio Value. And I'm going to resize it and do some formatting. We'll increase the font size. Let's go just a little bit bigger. And that looks good right there. So now I'm going to create an area where I'm going to track a few different things. I want to track my current portfolio value. I want to know my portfolio's cost, my percent unrealized gain, and my unrealized gain and loss. So I'm going to start listing off those things right here. And to do that, I'm just going to merge these cells here and start typing out those metrics. So here I'm going to have my dividend portfolio cost. And here I want to merge these cells, and then I want my percent unrealized gain / loss. And then right here, I want to have my unrealized gain and loss listed as a dollar amount. So let me go ahead and highlight this here. And let's come up to our borders and add some borders to it. And we will center this text as well. And if we come right here, we can bold this to make it stand out just a little bit more. And so let's go ahead and list out our portfolio value. So we're going to use a formula for this. We'll do equals sum. And then we want to take the sum of the current market value for all of these stocks. And I'm going to go below a little bit farther in case we add more stocks, but you can see here now we have our current portfolio value listed. And for our costs, now we're just going to take the cost column. And again, I'm going to leave room in case I add more stocks, but now we have our portfolio value and our portfolio cost. Now we want to see our percent gain. So we will do equals, and you can see the formula I'm putting in here for this. It's a relatively simple one. We're just going to work with the numbers we just put in for our value and our portfolio cost. And let's go ahead jump forward and do our unrealized gain and loss. This is another simple formula. And let's go ahead and make this a dollar amount here. And for this one, we will make this a percentage. So now we have all of those metrics tracking properly, and they will update automatically based off the stocks that we put in. So now I'm going to make my first chart, and I'm going to select my symbol and my market value. And what we're doing is we want to be able to see the percent value by our individual holdings. So I'm going to come here and select chart. Let's go ahead and copy and paste this over to our portfolio outlook. And right now we have it as a bar chart, but I want to be able to see it as a pie chart. So we can change our chart style. So let's go here to setup, and here we can select pie chart. So now we can see which individual stocks are our largest holdings, and it's just a really great tool to see where maybe we have too much capital tied up or too little, but we can make some investment decisions based off that chart alone. So let me go ahead and title this chart, and I'm just going to title it Value by Holding. And now we are ready to go ahead and move on and make our next chart. So let's jump back over to this page. We can delete this chart here. And for this one, we are going to select our symbol, and then we are going to select our dollar gain as well as our percent gain. So we are going to have a chart that is encompassing two different things. So this is going to be a little bit more difficult of a chart, but it's not too hard. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this over here. You can see it obviously does not look how we want it to look right now. So let's go ahead and click on this chart and edit it. So let's go here, and we want to change the chart type, and we want to do a combo chart here, and we can see it's still not looking correct. So let's go ahead and jump over here to customize. And if we go to series, let's select line 2, and we want to create a right axis for this. And when we do that, we can see now our chart is starting to look closer to correct, because we have a left axis for our dollar gain, and then we have a right axis for our percent gain. So let's go ahead and title which each of these things are. Our blue chart, the blue bar chart is going to be our dollar gain, so we'll list that here. And then our orange line is going to be our percent gain. So now we can see how each of our individual stocks have been performing over time. And so now we have 3 charts on our portfolio value tab. So this is a good start, but we still have a little bit more work to do. And for this next one, this is going to be a more complicated chart as well. So I'm going to make just a worksheet tab down here, and we want to make a chart tracking our value by industry. So what we're going to do is we're going to do equals, and we're going to select our symbol right here and drag this down. And then we are going to come right here and do another equal sign, and we will jump over and select our market value and hit enter, and we will drag that down once again. And we want to track our value by industry. So now we need to do the same thing and select our industry tab and hit enter as well here and drag this down. So now we have the data we need to begin making this chart. But first we need to do what is called the unique formula. And so I'm going to type this out, but essentially what this is going to do is it is going to select each individual industry that we have. So we can see here, now we have just one of each industry that is listed. And now we're going to do sort of a complicated formula. I'll have this one listed in the description, but you can follow along with me here. But what I'm doing is I'm going to do a sum formula that is essentially going to sum any values that have the same industry. And so this is a really useful formula to use. And we will come here and select this. And again, I'll be sure to have this formula posted in the description. And when I hit enter here, you can see we now have the total value for each of these industries. And this is what we're going to use to make our chart. So let's select this here, and we'll select the values here. So now we can make our value by industry chart. So we'll come up here to insert and click on chart. And we will copy and paste this over and bring it to our portfolio outlook page and paste it here. And I want this to show up as a pie chart, so let's go ahead and change that. we'll go to Setup and change the chart type. And now we can see our value by industry. This is a really great chart to have because we want to see where most of our capital is tied up. And if we realize that it's tied up too much in one industry, maybe we have too much risk exposure and we want to change up our portfolio. So I'm just going to go ahead and do some resizing now to make this portfolio look a little bit cleaner. I'll move this over here and make sure it's the same size as my other charts. And we want to size everything up together to where we can fit it on one screen. Okay, so now it looks like everything is close to being sized correctly. Still a few more things we want to do. Let's add some conditional formatting to our percent and dollar unrealized gain here. So same thing as earlier. We want anything greater than 0 to show up green, but this time we want the number to show up green. So I'll select the number / letter, and we'll do the same thing here. We'll add another value. If it's below 0, we want it to show up as red. And let's do a different red. Let's select this one and click done. Okay, so now we have our conditional formatting for our portfolio value. And let's go ahead and add some titles to these charts that don't have titles currently. So I'm just going to title this $/ gain, and we'll bold this so it stands out a little bit more. And I'll select this one and bold this out as well. And now let's select our value by industry chart, and let's go ahead and title it value by industry and bold it just like the rest. So now we have our portfolio outlook page pretty much complete. We'll come back to it a little bit later and add some color to it. But let's go ahead and delete this chart off of our recording chart, and let's get started on our Dividend Outlook page. And we'll move this over here on our worksheet tab. And we want to start making a dividend tracking sheet. And so we want to be able to see how much dividend income we have made month over month. So you can see what I'm doing here is I'm just selecting the date and the amount paid in dividends over time and putting it on our worksheet so we can make a chart. So now we have our date and the amount paid in dividends for each of these dividends. And let's go ahead and use the unique formula again, and we're going to select all of our months. So now we have each month listed just one time, and we want to use that sum if formula once again. And what it's going to do is it is going to sum all the values that have the same month as each other. So I'm going to type out this formula, and I will list this formula in the description once again because it is just a little bit more complicated. And when I hit enter on this formula, we can see we now have the total amount we have been paid in dividends for each month. So this is what we are going to use to start making our dividend tracking chart. So let's hit insert and click on chart. And it's currently listed as a pie chart. That's okay. We'll just go ahead and copy and paste it over to our Dividend Outlook page. And here's where we can change the chart. So let's go ahead and go here. We'll go to setup. And we want this to show up like our last chart. So let's select this line chart, and we want the values to be showing up on the chart as well. So just like we did last time, we will go here to our series, and we will add some data points. We'll select circle here, and we want our data labels to show up. So now we can see we have our data labels showing up, so we can see each month. But let's go ahead. It looks like it's not showing up here on the top. So we need to add our title. And let's see, what should we title this? Let's go ahead and title this Historical Monthly Dividend Income. Let me go ahead and go back here and fix that. And okay, so let's go ahead and start resizing this chart just a little bit. But we can come back to it later. So let's go ahead and title this sheet right here. And I'm just going to type out Dividend Outlook. And let's go ahead and format this like we did for our portfolio Outlook page. So we'll resize this to where it's in the middle. Let's increase the font size. And we need to go ahead and give it an outer border as well. And now we want to have an area where we're tracking some of our metrics for our dividends as well. And this time, I want to know things like my expected yearly dividend income from my portfolio, my dividend income year to date, average monthly dividends, highest month of dividend income, and my portfolio dividend yield. So let's start with our expected yearly dividend income. And I'll hit enter on this. Let's go ahead and spread this out a little bit. And let's go ahead and put in our sum formula. Let's jump over to our portfolio tab. For this one, all we're gonna do is select our dividend income from each of our stocks. And I'll scroll down a little bit farther in case we add more to our portfolio and hit enter. And now we can see our expected yearly dividend income. So let's jump over to our next one and let's add our dividend income year to date. So we want to be able to see how much income we have made from dividends up to this point in the year. And we will do equals and we will do sum. And all we're going to do is go to our recording tab and select all of the dividends we have been paid already for the year. And we'll close off this parentheses and hit enter. And now we can see how much we have made so far for the year in dividends. And now I also want to know my average monthly dividend. So if you're trying to live off of dividends, this is a really good metric to keep track of because you probably have a target number that you need to live off month to month if you're trying to live off dividends. So to do this, all we're going to do is take our expected yearly dividend income and divide that by 12. And here we can see how much we are making on average for each month off of our dividends. And now I also want to know what my highest month of dividend income is. So let's go ahead and list that here. And we're going to use a formula that we have not used yet for this one. It's not hard. All we're going to do is use equals and type out max, which stands for maximum. And we will go over to our worksheet tab here, and we will select each month's dividends. And here we can see what our highest month of dividend income was. And let's go ahead and list one more thing. I also want to know what the dividend yield of my portfolio is. So let's go ahead and list this here. We'll see if I can spell correctly. And okay, we have that. So let's go ahead and put in our formula here. It's not too complicated of a formula. We'll just take this and divide it by this right here and hit enter. And let's turn this into a percentage. So we can now see what the dividend yield of my portfolio is. So let's come here and let's go ahead and give this some outer borders. We'll bold this, and let's go ahead and resize this just a little bit as well. And let's go over here and fix this chart. Let's add a maximum value here, and now all of our data labels look like they're showing up properly. I think there was a few missing earlier, so now we have that fixed as well. Let's go ahead and start working on our other sheets now. And for this next sheet, I want to know my dividend income, next chart, I want to know my dividend income by industry. So we're going to go over to our worksheet and start listing off the data we need to make this chart. And let's go over to our portfolio holdings. We'll list the industry. So we have the amount paid in dividends. We have the industry. And once again, I'm going to use the unique formula, and I'm going to select all these industries here. And once again, we will use the sum if formula here. And again, this will be a formula that I'm sure I'll have posted in the description in case you struggle with it. But if you practice this, it is something that you should get down because it's a very useful formula to understand. And okay, so now we can see we have our industry and our dividend income for each industry. And this is what we'll use to make our chart. So let's go ahead and select this data right here. And we'll select Insert, Chart. And let's go ahead and copy and paste this over to our Dividend Outlook page. And we'll paste it. Let's move it over here. It's showing up as a pie chart right now. That's not how I want to see our dividend income by industry chart. So let's click on it and go ahead and fix that as well. And we will change this to, let's make it a bar chart, but let's make it going horizontally, just to mix things up a little bit. And let's go ahead and add a title to this as well. I'm just going to title it Dividend Income by Industry. And I will bold that so it stands out a little bit more. So now we have the second chart on our Dividend Outlook tab. Just 2 more to go. And this next chart that I want to see is my dividend yield on cost. So to do that, we're going to select all of our individual stocks that we're holding, and then let's select our dividend yield on cost. And we'll click Insert, and we'll get our chart. Let's go ahead and copy and paste this chart over to our Dividend Outlook tab. And it's showing up as a bar chart. That's not how I want to see this chart. So let's go ahead and select it, and we will fix that. And do a little bit more formatting. We still need a title. So let's title this just Dividend Yield on Cost. And this is going to allow us to see what the dividend yield is of each of these stocks that we have purchased. And let's go ahead and resize this. And now we're ready for our last chart. And for this chart, I want to see what my expected dividend income for each individual stock is going to be. So let's go ahead and again, we'll select our symbols and we'll come over here and select dividend income. And just like we have been doing, we'll go to Insert and click on Chart. And we will copy and paste this chart over to our Dividend Outlook tab. And it's currently showing up as a bar chart. That's actually how we want to see this one. So Google finally picked the right chart for us. Let's just go ahead and give it a title. And I'm just going to title this Expected Dividend Income. And now we can see we have all 4 charts that we need for our Dividend Outlook tab. So I'm just going to go ahead and do some formatting and resizing. And we'll see if we can get it to show up similar to our Portfolio Outlook tab. And let me go ahead and fix our title. It looks like I forgot to bold it here, so I'll do that now. And we'll center this text here. So really we're just doing some formatting stuff right now, nothing too important. Feel free to format it how you want. But now I'm going to start adding some color to these charts. And you can see how I'm doing that here. You just click on the chart, go to chart style, and you can color it in however you want. I like to use the lighter colors. I tend to think that they look just a little bit better. So I like to use colors like light yellow, light blue, light red. Every now and then I'll use purple as well. And let's go ahead and see how purple looks on this one. So yeah, I think those chart colors look pretty good, so we'll stick with that for now. Let's go ahead and select this entire sheet, and we'll make the sheet gray. And let's do it just a little bit darker actually. And let's select our Dividend Outlook title, and we will make that green. And if we come here to these metrics here, let's go ahead and make this yellow as well. And then let's go ahead and make this stand out more by coloring it in white. So now our Dividend Outlook page is officially complete. Let's jump back over to our Portfolio Outlook page, and let's do the exact same thing. So I'm just going to select Chart Style and start coloring these in. So I'll make this one yellow. And I'll color in these charts as well. And we will make this one blue, and then we'll select our last chart and make it purple. Let's go ahead and color in this entire sheet here, and we'll select gray once again. And let's go ahead and make our portfolio value show up green, just like we did on our last Dividend Outlook page. And then we'll make this yellow to stand out a little bit more, and then we'll select these metrics here and make this white. Okay, so now our portfolio/dividend tracker is officially complete. So let's go ahead and make sure everything is working properly. So let's go to our recording tab, and let's go ahead and say in September that we made, or our portfolio value is $9,600, and we'll hit enter. So let's check our portfolio value chart. We can see September's listed here. Our chart has updated automatically. Let's go to our portfolio holdings tab and test it out. So let's go ahead and delete AT&T off of this. And we'll say we bought Microsoft, and we bought 10 shares at a purchase price of $290 per share, and hit enter. And we can see all of these metrics are pulling automatically, including our industry and our dividend. Here's our 1-year trend line. So let's make sure our portfolio value and Dividend Outlook is updated automatically as well. And we can see it has, our dividend portfolio value has increased a ton. We can see Microsoft listed here on our individual holdings. We can see it listed here on our dollar and percent gain. Let's go ahead and jump to our Outlook tab, and we can see that Microsoft is listed here on our yield on cost and on our dividend income, as well as our information technology dividend income has increased as well, since that is the industry that Microsoft is in. This tutorial is now complete. I really hope this video helped you guys out a ton. If you have any questions, be sure to ask in the comments down below. If you'd like to be able to download this spreadsheet or any of my other spreadsheets in Google Sheets, then you can head over to my Patreon page at the link in the description. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching the video, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.